It is time to meet Sweet Caroline for as long as she's going to let me hold her. Sweet Caroline is about a year old. I adopted her, I think, around May. So what happened with Sweet Caroline is I was working in Animal ER, working overtime, and I had about 10 minutes left of my shift. And someone brought in this kitten they found on the side of the road. I think she was about 3 months old or so. And she wasn't walking. And it was quickly realized that she was neurologic. But my shift was ending, and what happens is when a stray cat comes in, we of course have to hold them and look for the owner and whatnot. And I said, well, if no owner comes forward, I'm really good with neurologic animals, like so she can't walk. I said, Eddie's Ranch might be able to take, Eddie's Ranch might be able to take her. So I went home, lived my life. And when I went to work on Monday, there was an email saying, no one owns the cat and it has no bladder or bowel control. So the shelter can't help it, but let Lisa take it. And I was like, oh my God, there's no bladder and bowel control, which for those of you to understand, that means that Sweet Caroline leaks urine. She doesn't have the feeling to hold it. So she doesn't go to the litter box and express herself the way most, everybody does, people and animals. And she has no bowel control. So even though her stool is solid, she just kind of goes, right? So remember those little cows and chickens you could bounce and like the brown jelly bean came out the bum? That's pretty much Sweet Caroline. So I was like, oh my God, this kitten is not placeable. Like no one's going to adopt this kitten. And she also had sores all over her back end, like sores, like bed sores, from leaking urine and laying in it because she couldn't stand or walk. So to be honest, she was a hot mess, but because it kind of landed on me and I was the decision maker, and it was either give this kitten a fighting chance or make a decision that I didn't want to make for a kitten without giving it a chance. So I took her home. And she was a hot mess. She ended up having to have surgery on the sores to have them, to have them cleaned up and stitched, and like it was a mess, you guys. But the reality is, here's my reality. We got control. She has no more open sores. She's starting to walk. I'm so excited. So she doesn't leak urine and just lay in it anymore. And the bigger thing is, she was a cat that technically you had to express her bladder a couple of times a day. She is releasing her bladder fully, so it's not just leaking urine anymore. She actually just urinates. Unfortunately, not in a litter box. I'm going to be honest about that. But because of those issues, I decided that she was not placeable, and so she was going to be a part of my life forever. She lives in my house amongst us whenever I'm home. And when I'm not home or I go to bed, for safety reasons and cleanliness reasons, I can't have her, Holly and the blind dogs, like walking through her stool and it's also my house, right? I built a kitten playground in my basement, which of course goes right out to the catio, which I made handicap accessible so she can live a full life. And when I'm home, she's up in the house at all times because I can clean after her. So she is so sweet and purrs on, I call her Kiki because of her neurologic issue. She kicks her legs a lot. Right, Kiki? Right, Kiki? She doesn't smell that great, but she is a sweet, sweet baby. So I named her Caroline after my niece, and I think it's illegal to live in Boston if you name any living thing Caroline and not put sweet in front of it. So I followed the rules, and her name is Sweet Caroline, go Sox. And that's it. So she's learning to walk. She's expressing her bladder by herself, which I was told by the neurologist was never going to happen. She's doing okay. She's doing okay. She's not placeable, but I don't want to place her anyways because I love her so much. So, she was a lot of work and a lot of stress. When she had those sores on her and I was cleaning it, she was on antibiotics and I'm expressing her bladder, I was really stressed out. I said, I'm in over my head with this kitten. I'm in over my head. But you know what? I just feel like cats are such little miracles. And I said, over my dead body, am I not giving this cat a chance? And I was going to give her a fighting chance until a veterinarian told me her quality of life wasn't good. But she's fixed. You know what I mean? Like the sores are gone. She expresses her own bladder and she's starting to walk. So that's it for Sweet Caroline. I just love her to pieces. And after that story, you know, honestly, if you ever come visit me, please bring slippers because I am not a house you want to walk. I try so hard to have a nice house and it's just so hard. But someone like Caroline is well worth it. So that is my Sweet Caroline. And the moral of that is this whole story with Carol: never give up hope when you think there's no other option. Push forward and try, especially with cats, because cats are little miracles. I'm telling you, they are little miracles. And I love her so much. And so she's the baby of the house. She's the youngest out of the whole house. And she's just gorgeous. Okay, but you did so good, Sweet Caroline.